Hi, my name is Jumpy Bernard here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition. Unmatched on-track intensity. And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Throw in a can't-miss concert, camping, and the legendary atmosphere of Talladega Boulevard. And you've got more than a race. You've got Talladega. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our studios as we look back to the first three Alabama football games so far this season and take a bit of a deep breath as well. It's Alabama's first open date coming up this Saturday before next week everything kicks back into gear for Alabama against Georgia. We'll be back with the show on Tuesday and Thursday of next week to get you ready for the Tide and the Bulldogs. We'll start our show by taking a look at what's coming up, plus our headlines for today, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show this afternoon. First of all, we'll go back to the broadcast booth inside Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium with our booth cam highlights. So we always have the booth cam presented by Regions Bank streaming live for each and every Alabama football game, and a lot of fun with Chris Stewart, Tyler Watts on the call of Alabama's win against Wisconsin. Then we'll visit with the new president of the University of Alabama, Dr. Peter Mohler. He joined Chris Stewart on Hey Coach on Wednesday night at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Great conversation with Chris and Dr. Mohler, getting to learn more about him and the vision he has for Alabama athletics. And then we'll go to another Baumhowers that go back to Monday night, fun edition of Crimson Tide Rewind from Baumhowers in Vestavia Hills, as Corey Reamer, our former host of that show, now sideline reporter, he filled in for Tyler Watts, who had a conflict. So Corey Reamer giving his thoughts on Alabama's win against Wisconsin and just everything he's seen from the Crimson Tide so far this season. Speaking of football, that impressive win, 38-14 against Wisconsin, starting on Saturday morning. Really fine efforts all over the place. Another good ball game for Ty Simpson. Only 5 incompletions, 4 touchdown passes. Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams getting involved once again in the passing attack. And with that, Alabama now 2-1 on the season. Started the year with the loss against Florida State, backing it up with wins against ULM and now Wisconsin. Congratulations to Bray Hubbard. He was named the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Week. 2 interceptions for Bray Hubbard. Great to see that, the most he's had in a single game at Alabama after having, I believe, 3 interceptions a year ago. He has 2 in one game against the Badgers, really shutting down that Wisconsin passing attack. Rolled Tide to Bray Hubbard. Coming up next Saturday, of course, the game we're going to be talking about all next week, Alabama at Georgia in Athens. First trip in 10 years for the Crimson Tide to the Classic City. 6:30 will be the kickoff. Our radio start time, 3:30 all across the network. Other notes around Alabama athletics. Good to see soccer after losing last Thursday to South Carolina, the 10th-ranked team in the country. Good bounce-back win, 3-0 over Lipscomb. In that ball game, Gianna Paul scoring for the Crimson Tide. That was her 34th career goal. She is now Alabama's all-time scoring leader with that goal. Can't wait to see what is ahead for Gianna Paul. I wouldn't be surprised at all if she moves it to 40, even as high as 43, 45 before everything is said and done in her senior season. But a 4-year starter, Gianna Paul couldn't be better for Alabama, and now she is the all-time scoring leader. Coming up tonight, the Crimson Tide will hopefully have another goal from Gianna Paul as Alabama is in Baton Rouge to take on the LSU Tigers starting at 7 p.m. Volleyball team home this weekend for the Crimson Classic, so make sure you make your way to Foster Auditorium. Good momentum for Rashinda Reed and the Crimson Tide. Strong showing over the weekend against North Alabama, and of course the last time Alabama was at home, that 5-set thriller against Wake Forest in the showdown at the net. Good things ahead for Crimson Tide volleyball. Hopefully good things ahead for football as well. This past weekend, it was an early start for us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network with our coverage starting at 8 in the morning outside of Vector Security Champions Lane. But then we moved upstairs to the booth and brought you the Alabama and Wisconsin game. Let's take a look back at the booth camp highlights presented by Regions Bank.
A new week, a new opponent. Hopefully a result that produces the same outcome, though, a victory for the Crimson Tide as Talty, the sophomore from Chicago, approaches the football and with the right leg gets things underway. Welcome to the capstone as that one sails into the end zone for a touchback. Wisconsin will shift and put a man in the backfield to the right of Danny O'Neal. That is Jones, as O'Neal will fire and it's picked off. Intercepted. Alabama. Bray Hubbard getting the pick. The junior from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, steps in the passing lane, and Bama gets a takeaway right back. They'll bunch everybody in. The wideouts are not wide at the moment. Spread formation behind Simpson, though, as he works under center. He'll hand it off to try to get to the edge with Bernard. Diving, did he get to the pylon? Yes. Touchdown, Alabama. Jeremy Bernard, the 2-yard touchdown run. And the Crimson Tide gets on the board first. 2:24 remaining opening quarter. It's 6-0 Bama here in Tuscaloosa. They operate from their own 36, do the Badgers. Shotgun snap, scrambling, going down once again. Danny O'Neal as London Simmons, the freshman from Jackson, Mississippi, gets his first career sack and the third Guthrie sack of the game already. Riley in the backfield to the right of Simpson, who operates from the pistol. 2 tight end look. He will pick it up. He'll fire. It is caught. Touchdown. What a throw. What a catch. What a half from Alabama. Isaiah Horton on the receiving end of the 13-yard strike, and Bama leads it 20-0.
This is only our 5th possession of the ball game.
Exactly right. Forgot about that one. Double reverse for Bama in the flip back to the quarterback, who slings it to Williams. We got a screen set up. He'll split him. He'll go across the 40. Gets another block across midfield. 20, 10, touchdown, Alabama, 75 yards. Oh, a little double reverse, a little flea flicker, a little receiver screen to the deuce, and he takes it to the house. Rolling right, Simpson runs into pressure, then runs away from it, breaking a tackle. 35-40, stopping, going, midfield and beyond. Ty Simpson, what a run. Snap, goes to Simpson, fade route, right side, back shoulder, caught by Williams. Makes a man miss, zigs, zags, scores, touchdown Alabama, 40 yards.
Backside shoulder fade. Defender has his back to Ryan Williams. The safety is not in a position to be able to support. Ty Simpson puts it on his back shoulder. Ryan Williams is able to once again just make 2 guys miss by changing direction so quickly.
Gets the snap, wants to throw. Looking across the middle. That is picked off. Hubbard again. Gets out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Second interception of the game.
Boy, Bray Hubbard in this zone defense does such a nice job of keeping his eyes back on the quarterback, but also having relation of where the tight end is that he's trying to cover. They're trying to hit him on a little corner out route, but Bray Hubbard makes contact as the Mason is coming out of his break and is able to undercut the throw for his second interception of the day.
It'll be a 33-yard try from the near hash for Talty. Snap and spot are good. The kick has plenty of leg, and the kick is good. So while the Tide fails to score a touchdown for only the second time today, they do get 3 points out of it. And the final 12 seconds are going to tick away, and Alabama is going to move to 2-1. And we do it respectfully, but we will strike up a little rammer jammer as they do not snap the football, and Alabama moves to 2-1 on the year. Your final. Alabama with a victory, and Tyler Watts feeling much better about themselves than they were 2 weeks ago. Right where they need to be, I think, heading to Athens, Georgia 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, and less important, we're feeling better about them also. This is a talented football team that has made strides and corrected things that needed to be addressed. They've taken it seriously, and you can tell that the leadership of this football team is strong. You have younger guys buying into what they're telling them and the kind of the precedent that has been set, the effort that needs to take place every single week. And it has been on display here the last 2 nights here in Tuscaloosa. But as you mentioned, this team plays good at home. You got to be able to travel, put on the whites, and be able to take that same characteristics, the hard work, the tenacity, the effort, the energy on the road. And it's going to be a tall order between the hedges there in Georgia, but this team is capable of going in similar to how they did in 2008 and knocking off the Bulldogs.
Crimson Tide a winner again by a final score of 38-14 over the Wisconsin Badgers, who fall to 2-1. Alabama improves to that number with an impressive win today over the Big Ten foe.
Of course, we have a lot of fun in the broadcast booth, and that always extends to Wednesday nights at Baumhower's Victory Grill as well for Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show. Last night, Chris Stewart hosted a jam-packed edition of the show, but notably, he had in person the new president of the University of Alabama, someone we've talked about on this show before, with the director of athletics, Greg Byrne, but Dr. Peter Mohler getting to go on stage at Baumhower's talk with Chris Stewart about his journey to Tuscaloosa and the vision he has for the University of Alabama. Let's take a look back at Dr. Mohler's conversation with Chris Stewart from last night's edition of Hey Coach.
The president of the University of Alabama, Dr. Peter J. Mohler. Great to see you, sir. Glad to have you with us.
Roll Tide.
You got that down really quick. I noticed that at the introductory press conference. We always wonder, when you come from outside the glorious state of Alabama, will they be able to handle that? And by golly, you took care of that really quick.
I grew up in a place called Grand Junction, Colorado, so a huge Broncos fan. So
Right.
my hero growing up was Bobby Humphrey. And so I
Understandable.
grew up very early appreciating Alabama football. And in fact, when my oldest daughter, was born, I look back at those pictures, I'm wearing a Bobby Humphrey hat. And, things come full circle in life. And this
Sure.
last weekend, I'm watching a football game with Bobby Humphrey and my son, who y'all get to meet in a few weeks, John, is now a huge fan of his son. And so it's just, what you see around the state is
Right.
DNA of every Alabamian is Alabama. It's Alabama football. Everyone knows tradition. Everyone's basements are painted the same way. Everyone has something in the world that they can get excited about and align with, and that's really special in this world right now.
It is indeed. Speaking of special, the Humphrey family. We all know Bobby, but I'm fortunate to know Barbara as well. She's the really special one in the family, and I say that because Bobby's a friend, and I would make sure that he heard me say that.
Well,
but
and she'll remind him, and
she
in
will.
fact, she's a special athlete as well, and
No doubt.
still holds most of the records at UAB for track, and in fact is one of my bosses now on the board of trustees. So
Exactly.
we'll say great things about her tonight,
Not a
and
problem.
we're very fortunate to have such a family in our community.
Is that one of the things that you've been able to experience, I guess, in a very short amount of time, is the bloodlines and how they continue to run very, very deeply within this university by generation?
It's true, and and we talk to students out on the quad and in front of Denny Chimes, and we talk to folks in the audience tonight, and everyone talks about my child and me and their father and their grandfather, and everyone has their great Alabama stories. And so we need to make sure that while we continue to grow and we continue to expand, that we honor those traditions that have been established for 198 years at the University of Alabama. So we're so lucky to have a university like Bama. It's so important for us to continue the tradition. Think about what the workforce for the future is going to look like, honor the athletic tradition, but we can't lose track of what made Alabama so special, and that's the people.
And you basically answered the question of what drew you to the university. I know some of the people are on the committee that talked to you, and I started to say convinced you to come here, but I don't think that was a very difficult thing to do, was it?
It's hard when you're negotiating with someone and they're saying, well, what do you need? And you're so excited, to be part of a community. I came from another university with a large athletics program, and so I wanted to be a place that had incredible athletics, had an incredible student experience. I mean, we have, and you all know this in the audience, we have the most beautiful campus in the entire country. And so to be able to have students that are excited to be there, that are students that work for a living, they have grit, they want to do something in the world, but then to have this athletics program that is just the best in the country, and it's going to continue to be that way. So it's super easy to come here.
I've had a couple of conversations with you. I've observed a little bit. You're very steady. Till one moment when you were introduced on the field at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, you got into it a little bit. You got the arms waving and you got the crowd into it a little bit.
So I would challenge any Alabama fan, and there's some in the audience tonight, if you had a chance to be out on the field and you're winning, I don't know what the score was at that point, first game on the field, to be on the digital score. I want to make sure Greg doesn't get upset with me. Make sure I say it the right way.
Don't cut into the branding. That's right.
That you all would have been pretty pumped too. And so to be there with my wife of 26 years, who y'all get to meet Nancy, to be on the Jumbotron, to be winning and kicking some rare, it's hard to not to get too excited. So it's had a blast.
You had a chance to post some things from social media. You've been pretty active the first 2 months at the Capstone. You visited with a lot of the teams and got to know them. I think people forget those athletic teams are truly student groups. I mean, they may have the opportunity in some situations to be a part of other organizations, but that is in essence their fraternity and sorority together. So the student groups that you may meet on other sides of the campus, other areas of the campus, the same way. You've met with students that are part of the athletic experience as well at the university.
And we all have an opportunity to see them on the field or on the court or in the gym, but I see them every day walking across the quad. I see them in class. These are special young men and women, and to see them competing their hearts out. I was at the women's soccer game this weekend, and a big 3-0 win over Lipscomb. We had Gianna Paul broke the record for the school record for goals, which was a huge deal. So to see them, as humans, but then to see them, the kids in the restaurant tonight look up to them. It's special, and they appreciate it and they value it. But to see them working so hard behind the scenes, where they're competing, they're practicing for 3 hours a day, but then they're also in school, and I don't think we always acknowledge that as fans and as administrators, and just what a special group of young men and women. And we're so lucky to have them here.
Talk to us about your background a little bit. We always talk about the impact that sports can have on your life, and being a part of a team and being a part of athletics and how it can help you later in life. Did you participate growing up?
Yeah, it's hard to look at me and look at a bald, old man and say he played sports, but I grew up in a small town called Grand Junction, Colorado, and I was a big hoops fan and grew up playing basketball. And I think for all of us that grew up in playing sports is a lot like life, as we know, and you got to put in a ton of work. If you don't put in the work and you don't put in the sweat equity, you're never going to get anywhere. You're going to fail a bunch. You're going to lose a lot. But if you're competitive, that you come back and you can pick yourself off the floor and you get back in life and continue to be competitive, continue to work hard, then a lot of things in life work out for you. And so I think for all of us, a lot of our youth growing up today, that we can learn a lot about sports, and that's why we encourage our kids to be in sports, encourage all kids to be in sports. You learn respect, learn the value of hard work, and that nothing comes easy.
You referenced that you were at another university. We're going to put this in current terms. We took you out of the transfer portal from Ohio State to the University of Alabama. We got a W in the transfer portal in getting Dr. Mohler here. But talk to us. I mean, obviously they've had great success over the years as well in athletics, not just football. But what does success athletically mean for a university as a whole? I know that's only a piece of it, but how important is that piece to you?
Yeah, I think, being at two great universities and spending time at Alabama, athletics is so important for the University of Alabama, and under my leadership, it will continue to be the front door of the university. It's so important, not only for the student athletes, but for the pride of citizens across the state and around the country, that all, every time you're in the airport, you see you say Roll Tide, everybody says Roll Tide, and so it's more than just what happens in athletics. I would also say that people don't appreciate the brand of the program for bringing students around the state and around the country to the University of Alabama. And so, I'm proud to be a part of this. I would also say that I think Alabama and our athletic director, Greg Byrne, do such a nice job, because it's not just about winning that season. We've seen a lot of athletic programs and football programs go out there and say, we're going to put this team together to win this year and put bet the bank. Greg's done such a nice job Coach DeBoer, Coach Oates, etc. have done such a nice job of building programs that are sustainable with the types of leaders that are going to stick around, that are going to put in the equity, that want to be a part of a program for many, many years. And that's not happening at most other places. So, to the fans out there and the folks in 67 counties, we are very, very lucky that we have a program that's going to be around not only when I'm your president, but when my grandkids are around and being Bama fans. So that's exciting for me.
It's exciting going around the state, too, isn't it? Kind of sharing your vision, but also talking about the university in major cities across the state of Alabama, in addition to around the country.
Oh, it's great. And everyone has a common language, because it doesn't matter when you grow up or how many students, 7,000 students at Alabama or 40,000 students at Alabama. Everybody can tell me who the coach was, who the running back was, where they were during the Iron Bowl. And I said it before, it's such a common language, and it's something that brings us all together as a community days. And that's very, very rare. And so we've got to embrace that, and we have to continue those traditions.
You're not limited to just 2 or 3 floors on this answer, but give me your elevator speech question, or your answer, I guess, about what your vision for the university is and the impact it can have in the future.
I think we have done, and leadership before my presidency has really grown the university to a place where we're fiscally in a very strong place. We have a strong student body. We have great leaders across the organization. Now's the time for us to take some bets and say, we're going after areas that the University of Alabama can really give back to the citizens. And so when we think about areas of economic development, or the development of workforce for nursing or physicians or engineers, we should be the place in the state of Alabama that's developing legends. We talk about legends, but legends for impact, meaning the leaders that are going to define the future therapeutics for the world, or that invent the new advanced manufacturing that turns into a next car company. Or we've heard a lot about the great work in Huntsville and Space Force. We are producing engineers that will be leading these major initiatives, not only for the United States, but for the entire world. And that's special to be around those students on the quad that are going to change the world. And so we have to continue to be bold, the same way we are in athletics, in our academics, to say we're going to change the world, and it all starts here in Tuscaloosa.
You talked about students, over 42,000 of them now, the largest number in the history of this school. How do you maintain the growth and yet also maintain the feel and fit and personal touch that's needed at a place like Alabama?
It's a great question. It's something that I've spent a lot of nights thinking about. Is growth is always good, but when we hear the stories, and we talked about it before I came up on stage, everybody has their own memory, and I am concerned that if we get significantly larger, we're going to lose a lot of that culture, a lot of that faculty to student ratio, the stories. We want to make sure that we're big, and we're big enough to be sustainable and to make these big bets. But I want to make sure that we don't lose that culture that has always been a part of our great university, and to make sure that everyone knows each other on campus, and you can have a great relationship with your faculty, and you can have a great relationship with your staff. So we are asking those questions. Is do we want to start thinking about slowing down our growth so we don't lose a lot of that culture? So it's a great question, and those are the questions that we're really trying to answer right now.
All right, last question. You've clearly used Roll Tide correctly. Can you use y'all in a sentence correctly? And how do you like your grits?
All right, so I married a Southerner. She's from North Carolina, so I know it's a little bit different.
It counts.
But well trained in y'all. I learned sweet tea very, very early on, and it has to sit a day. And I don't know if that's a thing
Very
in your
nice.
family. But you don't drink sweet tea fresh. And then the last thing is you don't eat instant grits, as we all know, right? With some cheese, and you got to feed them fresh. So it's I learned, and I listened to my wife, and that's why I'm still alive.
I say we keep him, folks. He's answered all the tough ones. Dr. Mohler,
Thank you,
an
sir.
honor. Thank you so much for the time.
Roll Tide.
We appreciate it. Roll Tide. Dr. Peter J. Mohler, the president of the University of Alabama, and clearly grit connoisseur as well.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition, and triple header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Speaking of Baumhauers, again, we were there on Monday nights for Crimson Tide Rewind. Corey Reamer filled in for Tyler Watts, who had a speaking engagement, and we had a fun time getting to revisit with Corey. Again, you'll hear the reception he received when he came back. Really fun to see him back in front of a lot of friends and family at the show on Monday night as we looked back at the win against Wisconsin, talked about Georgia as well, and there is a programming note. We have Crimson Tide Rewind, of course, after every Alabama game. No game coming up this week, so there will not be a Crimson Tide Rewind on Monday coming up in Vestavia Hills. So keep that in mind, but the show will return coming up on September, I believe, 29th, on the Monday night following the Georgia game. But you can watch this episode in full on our YouTube channel, listen to it on the Alabama Insider podcast. But here are some of the best of moments from what we like to call Be Kind, Crimson Tide Rewind. Again, Corey's here filling in for Tyler tonight on the show. Tyler Watts, our former Crimson Tide quarterback, color analyst, has a Red Elephant Club event in Mobile tonight, so he'll be back with us in a couple weeks when we resume this show. But he's Corey Reamer. I'm Roger Hoover. It's good to talk to all of you tonight for the next hour about Crimson Tide football, especially, Corey, after a win against Wisconsin.
Well, by the way, before we get there, the fact that there's cheers like this for a linebacker over a quarterback doesn't happen very much, so I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much. This doesn't happen very often at all, so I'll take it.
I mean, you were a national champion.
That is true. That is true. No, great win this weekend. Did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the theme of the last 2 weeks from this Alabama team is you can't ask for much more than what they did against Louisiana Monroe. And they went out there and took care of business like they were supposed to against Wisconsin this weekend. So really encouraged by the direction of where this team is headed. Obviously, still, reeling a little bit off that first week. They've just really decreased the margin of error that we have for the rest of this season. So it seems like this team has started to turn a corner. I'm not going to say that Wisconsin is one of the best teams that we're going to face. Obviously, we have a pretty tough schedule remaining throughout the rest of the season. But it's good to see that they were out there playing as hard as they did. They've got the energy level up from that first week. They were flying to the football. They were executing extremely well. And what else, there's not much more that you could ask for from that standpoint.
Certainly not. And again, it was a very tough first week against Florida State, but it seems like from everything we've kind of kept learning about, and I've even learned about in some player interviews over the last couple of days, I mean, just the response in that locker room from the players more than anything, showing leadership was really good after that loss, and we've seen it back up now with the ULM game and Wisconsin.
Yeah, and Tim Keenan wasn't able to make the trip to Tallahassee. And being in that locker room for the last 2 weeks, seeing the impact that he has on this team and the way that he's standing up pregame, halftime, postgame, celebrating his teammates, challenging his teammates, bringing the energy that you need to get this team going. It was missed, obviously, in that first week. And I'm excited that he's finally going to get to be back and hopefully be playing. Hopefully he's 100% in a couple of weeks. He was out of the boot on the sideline on Saturday, which is a good sign. You also got Jam Miller that's going to be hopefully coming back and be ready to go in Athens in a couple of weeks. But you're right. You could just tell that there was a completely different vibe from what I felt and saw on the sideline that first week in Tallahassee to what we saw last week in a blowout win. And I think that was the most, encouraging thing is these guys were not just celebrating the first teams. They were the second team, the third team. And all those guys that were out there playing at the end of the game were playing full speed and playing like they were on a mission. They were not out there just trying to run the clock out and get their reps and be done and want to go to the locker room and celebrate. They were playing tough and physical, and I think that the challenge has started from the top down, and even Coach DeBoer of how you motivate this team, how you challenge this team, and what the standard is for this team has trickled down, and the players have it's always, in 2010, I remember, that was a team that had all the talent in the world and maybe not the vocal leadership. And you can lead by example as much as you want to, but sometimes you need those guys that really just bring in a different charge into the locker room. And I think we've got that, and these guys have stepped up in a big way to motivate these guys.
This is your first season as our full-time sideline reporter. Just how much are you enjoying getting to be on the sidelines during the games and then those peeks inside the locker room pregame and postgame?
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part is you get to see kind of the inner workings of this new staff. Some people that not many people in that locker room that I know, Josh Chapman, Freddie Roach, and then the list kind of drops off from there after Jeff Allen and a few others, Jeremy Giselle. It's been a lot of fun. I've had to kind of retrain my brain how to watch football because you just do it, as a fan for so long, even though we did this show, but doing it from a sideline and having to do it live, not where you can just go back and watch something and kind of diagnose what happened and have some time to think about it and really watch a replay. Doing it live and seeing it and trying to verbalize what you're seeing that quickly is not easy. It's something that, watching it from that field level too, from up in the booth, you get a whole picture. Trying to see it from down low and trying to give something that is correct or just something that's interesting that I see. It's a lot of work. I'm mentally exhausted after every single game, and physically, if you watch me on the sideline, I'm just working from one end zone to the other the entire time.
You had a step count yet?
I mean, I don't wear a watch that counts anything, so I probably don't need to know. But it's been a lot of fun. We got a great team. You, Chris, Tyler, Tom, Butch, everybody, Ethan, everybody in the booth. Makes my job a whole lot easier. Obviously, they're a lot of fun to work with. They keep it light. I think that's the biggest surprise for me is I'm trying to be an analyst. I'm trying to bring all this knowledge, and it's like we can cut up and have a pretty good time with our crew, too. So that's been fun.
Chris Stewart on the call of the first Bray Hubbard interception this past Saturday against Wisconsin as Alabama wins 38-14 over the Badgers. Keep up with everything Alabama with the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app presented by Caden Spank, available at the App Store and Google Play. Download the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app now for free. Great to see that for Bray Hubbard. 2 interceptions in this ballgame and is the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, well deserved, and I think it's been 2 weeks in the making. This guy got challenged by everybody from the fan base to the coaches to the analysts to everybody that was out there. Everybody had Alabama dead to rights after the first game, and a lot of it was analyzing these players, the effort, the toughness, and all this other stuff, and he was the focus because he was a guy coming into the season that everybody was looking for the leadership and the guy that was going to be the one on this defense that really set the tone. And we've talked about this, during game days and leading up to this season. Everything we saw in practice, fall camp, practices during the week, everything that we saw was positive. It all looked like things were going the right way, and I think that was one of the biggest shocks was when you go out there and see the first game, and the effort was a shock to everybody, to the players themselves, to the coaching staff. It was all like, what's going on here? It was kind of unexplainable why it panned out that way. And I think Bray, in his maturity, shows up to coach's office the next week, and he admits to the coaching staff like that. I don't know what that was, but you're never going to get that from me again. And I think he took it upon himself to go prove all these people wrong. In the last 2 games, he's done exactly that. I thought it was an unbelievable performance by him on Saturday, getting 2 picks, and not just because the ball was thrown right to him. I mean, he created those opportunities the way that he's playing defense, and he is leading. He is the heartbeat of that defense, and we've got a lot of good leaders there, but he is one of the guys that makes everything flow, especially from that safety position. He's your backstop. He's the one who's got to create a lot of plays. And I'm excited. I was excited to see him. Preseason, he was the guy that I was the most looking forward to see what kind of year that he was going to have. And he's answered the bell, and now it's hopefully continues to play at this level because he's playing at an extremely high level right now.
And I realize we haven't played the best passing offenses we're going to see so far this season in Florida State, ULM, and Wisconsin. But is this secondary starting to live up to the hype?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, we haven't been tested, like you said. Louisiana Monroe was. You heard the coach before that game. I'm married to the zone.
Stretch zone
I'm married to the stretch zone. We're going to run it 70% of the time, and you got the same thing from Wisconsin. Jeff Grimes is a guy who wants to establish a run. Old school Wisconsin offense. You knew that was going to be the case. You got a backup quarterback in there who's got a little bit of mobility, but you knew what the MO of that offense was running the football. So What I am excited about is the way that anything that has been completed, there was a couple completions down the field. We've been in good position. They've just been really good throws. There's not a lot of just busted coverages. These guys are playing really well on the back end. And what helps out that the most is getting pressure up front, and we've been doing that this year. Last year there was a lot of talk during the all season of we're not getting home to the quarterback enough with our front seven. And this week we had 3 sacks and a few quarterback hurries, and we hit the guy a lot, and that changes the dynamic for everything. We created a lot of turnovers last year, but now we're finally getting that guy on the ground as well. We're going to see a different passing attack. Georgia, still to be determined. They want to throw the ball a little bit more. They've got the ability to.
Kind of had to on Saturday.
Yeah, you had to on Saturday. Gunnar Stockton is a quarterback that can make all the throws, and they've got one of the most talented wide receiver groups in the conference. And so we're gonna definitely get tested in Athens in a couple Saturdays, which will be good for this defense. We've been building this confidence as a defense after that first week and facing that style of offense that's really just very difficult to game plan for. But this is going to be completely different. The Vandy's and the Missouris and the Georgias and the Tennessees of the world, they're not looking to 3 yards in a cloud of dust, run stretch zone 70% of the time. They're gonna put a lot of pressure on the secondary.
Talking about the Alabama offense, maybe a 4 and out for Alabama to start the game, but then after that, nothing but some really solid drives afterwards. It wasn't until the fourth quarter when Alabama had to have a kick to close out a drive. Ty Simpson running that offense well on Saturday. Yeah, he's been efficient the last 2 weeks. 17 of 17 last week against Louisiana Monroe, and was he 24 of 29 this week? And a couple of those were drops. He's just. He's playing really well. He's really feeling comfortable in this offense. He is seeing and timing his throws so much better than he was that first week. And obviously got put in some pretty difficult spots in that Florida State game. They were able to rush 4, had a lot of athleticism up front with their defensive line. They were getting home. But I'll tell you what, and that is something that we've got to improve on going forward. Our offensive line has still got a lot of area of room for improvement just based on what we saw Saturday early on in that 4 and out starting drive. They were able to get a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson. He was having to move his feet in the pocket so much. He's not had very many games or a lot of times where he's had clean pockets where he can stand back there and really diagnose the defense and see what he sees. He is having to move around with his feet a bunch, get the ball out, and taking a lot of hits when he does it. But that's what's impressive about him is the first game he's got his eyes kind of down in front of him, and he's watching this defensive line because they're coming after him so much. Now you see he's keeping his eyes up a lot, and he's being able to see what's going on. He's stepping into throws, knowing that he's going to take a hit. And that is a massive maturity level of a quarterback when you know that you're going to take a hit and you can still deliver strikes like that ball to Ryan Williams, the deep out route on the left side of the field. Stands in and takes the hit and delivers an absolute strike. He's playing really well. I think Ryan Grubb and this offense really they're starting to figure each other out. We saw on Saturday we were moving a lot of offensive linemen around. I think we're trying to figure out what this combination that we need to be a little bit more consistent up front where we can protect him but also establish the run game. It's one thing we've got to continue to improve on as well. Yeah, did you like seeing Michael Carroll rotate in a right tackle? Also really got to see Jaden Roberts for the first time this year finally healthy.
Yeah, I mean, with Cam Dewberry, and then you've also got Gino Vandermark and Jaden Roberts, all those guys, I think we're just trying to – we talked about this last couple years. Every time early on in the season, the biggest emphasis for us is what is the chemistry across that front line? Who are those 5 guys that can really communicate well? And you've got to have so much feel as an offensive line. You can't sit there. You're not going to be able to talk. Your eyes are here straight ahead, and you're leaning on the guy next to you to be able to pick up what's coming on or for you to feel where you've got to help out. And it just takes a lot of game reps to get that level of comfortability with each other. And so I'm kind of not shocked that we have rotated some guys at some different positions and trying to find what that real solid group that's going to carry us through the SEC schedule and the rest of this year of what that looks like. But glad to see we're luckily these last 2 games have allowed us to get for those guys to get reps, and we need it. And I think depth is such an issue for every team in the country with the transfer portal and NIL, and you don't have all this time to kind of build the confidence and the reps with these guys during the offseason because you got so many new faces and injuries and everything else. So it's a good thing for us before we kick off this next stretch of games that a lot of these guys have gotten meaningful reps, not just cleanup duty reps, meaningful reps where they've seen some real live action.
Forgot about that one. Double reverse for Bama in the flip back to the quarterback who slings it to Williams. We got a screen set up. He'll split him. He'll go across the 40. Gets another block across midfield. 20, 10, touchdown, Alabama, 75 yards. Oh, a little double reverse, a little flea flicker, a little receiver screen to the deuce, and he takes it to the house.
Isn't it nice to have Ryan Williams healthy, playing at a high level for the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, you allowed a kickoff return the very next play, though.
Well,
not
that
to
was
bring
set up
us
by the
down,
penalty.
not
Yeah.
to bring us down.
Coaching moment for Coach DeBoer, something to be upset about in the bye
he
week.
was fired up. For all those Alabama fans that say he doesn't have any emotion, you should have seen him on the sideline when that penalty flag came out in the celebration. And the kid was just he was getting ready to run on the field for the PAT, and it's just unfortunate mistake, and it cost us. And I think that's a learning lesson for everybody. But yeah, having Ryan Williams back out there with the that sandlot play that we drew up was coming out at halftime. It was just like, all right, that kind of put the nail, or what we thought was the proverbial nail in the coffin. He's just such a playmaker. He's so dynamic. He's so fast. I think what we saw from him this week, obviously in that Florida State game, we tried to change up our game plan of where we line him up. I saw him a lot in the slot against Florida State. And he's got the ability to be that complete receiver where you can line him up anywhere. I think Florida State did a really good job of being physical with him. The safeties, Earl Little Jr., a lot of those guys were playing downhill very fast and getting a lot of contact against him. But you saw how dynamic he is when he's on the edge. And then you just draw up plays like that where you get a guy like him the ball in space. He is going to be special. He's going to make plays happen. He's just so fluid, so quick. Whatever direction he's running, it doesn't look like he has to change speeds. Like, it is full speed no matter which way he cuts. He's just a special player. Glad that he had the day that he had this weekend. We're going to need more performances like that from him for the rest of the year.
He had the game-winning touchdown against Georgia last year, and Georgia is next for the Crimson Tide in a couple of weeks, going to Athens, where we really haven't played that many football games over the last 10, 15 years. First time since 2015 Alabama's been there. You were there as a player. What does this group have to do to play better on the road?
Man, hopefully it's not raining like it was in 2015.
Yeah. Well, that kind of played to Alabama's favor with
It
Derrick
really
Henry.
did. It really did. And I don't know if that is the same case for us this year. In 2015, Derrick Henry, you got guys that can run the football, and that was our MO as an offense, and it played exactly into our hands. We've got to be able to take this show on the road. We said it after the game on Saturday. We're playing extremely well at home. How do we handle when you don't have the crowd behind you and you've got a lot of noise and things aren't going your way? Early on, going into this Wisconsin game, knowing what their offensive game plan was of trying to run the football and milk the clock. The only way you can change the outcome of that ball game is if you put points on the board early and you force them into situations they don't want to be in. They're running an offense that they do not want to run, or just don't have the ability to play catch up with. They don't have a quarterback that's going to. Ty Simpson had to throw it 43 times against Florida State, and it proved to be detrimental for us. It wasn't what we wanted to do going into that game. Going on the road, the fastest way to quiet the crowd noise or to change, force the team into uncomfortable situations, opposing teams into uncomfortable situations, is have some success early on and get them behind the sticks. From a defensive standpoint, continue to get pressure on quarterbacks. Don't let these guys get in these second and third down and short situations where they can take deep shots and look for that big play. Put them in, back them up for second and 12s, third and long situations where they're just trying to move the sticks, not with the freedom to try to take deep shots and create big plays.
It's going to be a night game in Athens. Does Georgia dare to wear the black jerseys?
Kirby was on He was on the other sideline in 2008 when all that went down. He probably remembers Cochran very well of that practice that week of announcing that they were going to their own funeral. I don't know if, he was a part of so many Alabama teams that tried to do all these different jerseys and these, whatever, whiteouts, blackouts, whatever it was, and it just always kind of backfired. I wouldn't be shocked if he kind of shies away from that or discourages those types of things. It's a great looking uniform. I mean, I don't hate it. But
it's not very successful.
Yeah. It's not. And playing in Athens between the hedges against a good Georgia team, they should not have to, do something special, but you never know. It can happen. I hope that he does. We're matching it. Our coaching staff's wearing all black on the sidelines too. It's this past Saturday, Kalen DeBoer in the black hoodie. It was 100 degrees, and I was like, "You chose this. Like this was." I'm over there in pants and I'm dying, and you've got a black hoodie on. Like what? I just didn't make much sense to me, but I'm glad. I hope he wears it every single game. It's brought good mojo for us. He tried to appease the fans by wearing a golf shirt in that first game. Saw what happened. He goes back to his hoodie. You know what? It really doesn't matter what a coach wears. If you win ball games, everybody's going to let you wear whatever you want to. So I'm happy that he's gotten comfortable and he's dressing the part that he wants to be dressed as. Yeah.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition, and triple header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Again, appreciate Corey and all the fun we had on Monday nights with Crimson Tide Rewind. No show coming up this Monday, but we have a busy, jam-packed week getting you ready for the Alabama-Georgia game next week. Let's take a look at our upcoming schedule. Well, the first show we'll have on the network will be this show, Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, on Tuesday. We get back to our normal Tuesday and Thursday rhythm coming up next week, 2 o'clock, streaming live on all CTSN social media platforms. Hey Coach, with Coach DeBoer in person at Baumhauer's next Wednesday night with Chris Stewart, coming up at 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. I mentioned Crimson Drive on Thursday, and then football against Georgia coming up on September 27th. 3:30 will be our airtime across the network, getting you ready for that prime time showdown between the Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs. Kalen DeBoer trying to go 2-0 against Georgia in his career. Look forward to that, and we'll have plenty more coverage coming up. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms at UA_CTSN. If you're watching on YouTube, just subscribe already to the channel, turn notifications on so you don't miss anything coming up from the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And that's going to do it for this one show only edition of Crimson Drive this week, driven by NASCAR. A huge thank you to all the guests that we had on the show. Dr. Mohler for joining Chris Stewart at Baumhauer's this past Wednesday night, as well as Monday night. Corey Reamer giving great insights on Alabama football on Crimson Tide Rewind. Thank you to our video producer, Ethan Carabin, not just producing this show, Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, but putting together the booth cam highlights presented by Regions Bank as well. For all of us with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, I'm Roger Hoover. Thank you so much for watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Enjoy the open date, whatever you want to do. Go play golf, go to the beach, watch all the football you can, not just the Alabama game. Enjoy this college football Saturday coming up, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday to begin Georgia Week. Roll Tide, everyone.